What's up, guys? Welcome to the Keep It Hoop YouTube channel. It's been a while. I think it's 2 years or so, a little over 2 years since our last YouTube videos, where we broke down the Rockets Warriors playoff series. And since then, we kind of took a break. And then we restarted our WordPress blog and Facebook, Instagram, and our podcast, which can be found on Spotify and iTunes. And all those links will be down below in the descriptions. And we're still working on a little bit of some of the rebranding and stuff. But anyways, we're back. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, good to have you back. Our first video back, we're going to be talking about the Lakers. We're going to look specifically at the fourth quarter of Game 4 against the Nuggets. Game 5 against the Nuggets. Just a few plays and really break down how they got some of their easy shots. I'm sure Miami's going to be looking at this final starting tomorrow. Very excited. Um, but yeah, we'll get started right away. So beginning of the fourth quarter, 84-87, Lakers have the ball. If you look at the best coaches in the league, be it Budenholzer, Steve Kerr, Spoelstra, Popovich, Nick Nurse, they all have really good out of timeout plays. OTPs, right? OTPs. Now, let's rewind this a bit. Out of timeout plays, and then plays whether it's beginning of quarters, like in this case, or end of quarters. Now I bring this up because in a close game or close series like this, such as the playoffs usually are, you're gonna need easy baskets whenever you can, and generating looks for your shooters and your best players are gonna go a long way at this time of year, and especially when you're playing up against some of the best defenses, some of the best athletes in the world, and it's even more true for the playoffs when these teams and scouting, the scouts have hours and hours of footage on what sets you run, the tendencies of your best players. So again, getting easy baskets here and there, and doing so as often as possible, definitely a huge plus. I'm gonna let this run through. You're gonna have LeBron be the screener at the top for a little handoff. Not something you see very often, but Caruso is able to get into the lane. Nice overhead pass for a Kuzma three. Goes from a 3-point lead to a 6-point lead for the Lakers in the matter of seconds. So why does this all work? The guy I want you guys to keep an eye on, don't say this too often, but is actually going to be Marcus Morris right here. He is setting the screen on LeBron. And as we said, LeBron's going to end up coming here, and he's going to set a screen. But this is called, let's get rid of this, screening the screener. So what does that do? What does screening the screener do? Well, as you can see here, because Markieff Morris screened LeBron's man, which is Jerian Grant, Grant is not in position with LeBron right here. And what that means is he then can't hedge and help out Monte Morris, who's guarding Alex Caruso. So then what does that mean? Well, as you can see here, Morris actually does a pretty good job of getting back into the picture and stopping Caruso. But Caruso's still able to get 1 foot into the paint. And because of that, the Denver defense really starts to break down a little bit. So, you see Jamal Murray shading a little bit. One guy. Jokic has to help down. Two guys. And then that's big because if Jokic has to come help, that means MPJ, even if it's just a foot or two, has to slide down just in case Markieff Morris gets it. Because you want to stop layup and dunks, right? Now, LeBron's position up here is important because, one, Grant can't help down. Not that he would, but he can't anyways because he has to stay here. And it's important that LeBron is here and not here is because when Caruso makes this pass to Kuzma, right? If LeBron was over here, then Grant would probably be here. He could probably still make it with his athleticism and wingspan to Kuzma if MBJ couldn't. Right? So all it took was a LeBron handoff to Caruso. And then because of the screening the screener at first, Grant can't help hedge. Morris can't fully stop Caruso. Caruso gets a foot in the paint. You have three guys looking at him. Three guys on ball. And then you have multiple options here. And it's going to be a recurring theme. Options. They're going to get the best offense in the league. They're going to have options, and they're going to be able to get them easily. So what are the options here? Well, not the easiest shot, but Caruso could shoot. 2, you have the Kuzma 3. 3, you have a Danny Green 3. If he wants to pass there. And then you have 4. It's a bit of a stretch, but I guess the Markieff Morris pass. And then 5, you always have your last option of kicking it back out to LeBron. But, I mean, you can see here that, again, screening the screener, handoff, drive, kick. Within, let's say they got past half court at 17, 18 seconds. Took 5 seconds. They got a wide open 3 for one of their better shooters. Big, big, big way to start the quarter. All right, now we're going to skip ahead a little bit to the next play I wanted to look at. This is actually something, I know we said we're going to talk about the Lakers, but that Denver does. And I think this is something that I know Miami has, Bam isn't Jokic, and Jimmy Butler's a different kind of player than Murray. But I think this is still something they're going to look at, something they feel like they can exploit. And I wanted to show this because obviously Denver's known for running the 1-5 pick and roll, right? 1 being point guard, 5 being center. 1-5 pick and roll or pick and pop. Wanted to look at why they do it every play. Well, they do it every play because it works. It's a really easy play. It's efficient. They get great shots. Take a look here. There's a couple things we have to really key in on before, right? 1, look at where you're setting the screen. I think Houston was one of the teams that really started doing this. I know LeBron in Cleveland was doing this a bit, but like 5-10 years ago, right? You set the screen here. But now you have big men setting screens all the way up here. And you might ask why. Well, that's because when Jamal Murray is able to get downhill, gets the ball, he now has all this space to work with. You're able to then simplify the game for your 2 best players, and they can essentially play 2-on-2 basketball with all this space. There's a simple way of saying or explaining why it works, but let's go into actually what happens here. Right, so they set really high screens, which gives their best players space to operate. 1, I will say, it's pretty lazy defense by Caruso, and that leads to Dwight having a hedge over. But Then we go back to options. What options do they have? Murray shot, which is what ends up happening. 2. Jokic pop. Actually, there's a couple things Jokic could have done here, right? Roll for the floater he likes. He could pop. Could have gone here for the 3. Right, he's going here for the roll. Or, and this is a little bit of a wrinkle, but he could have gone for, not matchup, but a mismatch. So how could he do that? Well, because Caruso is a little bit lazy on defense, and I don't think he can live with this kind of defense when you're going up against a team that's even more. I think Denver's more explosive because you have a guy like Murray, but I think the rotations or the missed assignments will hurt, could possibly hurt against Miami more because they're so much more explosive from 3. So because Caruso is again a little bit lazy and you make Dwight play the 1v2, right? You then have the first 2 options, and then the with Jokic you have 3 kind of sub options. How's that going to lead to a mismatch though? Well, let's say instead of shooting this, Murray can somehow kind of operate towards here. And if Jokic, instead of rolling after the screen here, kind of drifted this way, Caruso's going to come here, right? That means Caruso versus Jokic. Okay, Denver wins that. Dwight versus Murray. If I'm Denver, I want this. 2 mismatches on the court if they can do that. Now what then happens if you have the mismatch, right? If Jamal Murray goes here and Jokic is out here, and then you have Monte Morris kind of coming back up here for space, Murray can then drive based on like he actually likes to do against Dwight. Or if Jokic is here, right, let's say 15. Monte Morris is here. And then you have Jamal Murray, right? Jamal Murray can then, he comes out here and then gets the ball to Morris. After all that's done, once Morris gets the ball, then Jokic can make a straight line drive to the paint where then he can post up Caruso. And when that happens, then, I mean, this doesn't even need to happen, but then you still have option number 3, which is MPJ 3. And ideally, if Grant is a little bit more further out, then you have option number 4, which is the Grant 3. So 4, and then the subsets of the Jokic options, and then you give yourself anywhere from, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anywhere from 4 to 6 options off of that action, with one of them being a mismatch, and 3 of those plays being for your 2 best players. So that is why they run that play all the time. So just to look at, again, kind of, right? Because if you're Miami, how would you want to run this? How would you go about trying to get this action? Right? It's probably either Butler. I mean, they usually just run the Dragic. Bam. So still a 1-5 pick and roll. The only thing that's scary is instead of Grant, you have Duncan. Instead of MPJ, probably have like Hero or Jay Crowder. And instead of Morris, you probably just have him be Butler. Come get the ball if need be. But then if this is Duncan Robinson instead of Jeremy Grant, and you have Bam rolling, who's more athletic than Jokic, and you have the possibility of that lob, right? The alley-oop, way more of a threat than it is with Jokic. Then AD needs to decide: do I want to stop the easy dunk at the rim, or do I want to stop Duncan Robinson, who's a way better shooter than Jeremy Grant? And if Duncan Robinson is here, and AD decides, well, I should probably stop the easy two first, that means then LeBron has to dive down. And if Duncan Robinson makes the pass, that means Tyler Hero or Jay Crowder is going to be wide open. So then AD has to sprint all the way up. So that's what I meant by if it's, Jamal Murray is Jamal Murray, Jokic is Jokic, and I think, they've done an outstanding job. But Miami's offense could be a scarier threat in terms of team composition and X's and O's. But there's that. And then the last play I wanted to look at was right here. So on this play, instead of screen the screener, we're going to see KCP screen the roller. So this time it's actually going to be, you have two people, right? Double screen. Now, if you watch the fourth quarter of this game, even most of the game, but especially the fourth quarter, a lot of it was just LeBron and Dwight running pick and rolls and LeBron making the right reads and kind of just taking over. But I'm going to see here, double screen. KCP does such a good job of taking up two guys here. Great screen, great play. So let this roll a second more. Let's do it again, guys. What are the options? Well, Ron could shoot, or he could actually pull it back. Mismatch with Jokic. 2. Dwight lob, which is what ends up happening. Well, it's a pass to Dwight. Dwight's not as young as he used to be. Not the lob we all thought was coming. Anyways, then you have stuff AD to the right there, or can make this overhead pass to Caruso, which is very capable of making. Not an easy one, but LeBron can make it. Again, 4 with a subset of 1, so 4 to 5 options from a simple double screen. And you're really making Jokic make a tough decision. This Monte Morris right here, right? Now, why the double screen worked, it's kind of like before. You're really making the defense take an extra step than they need to, make an extra rotation. Because KCP is taking up 2 Nuggets players here. That means Jokic has to come off of Dwight, which is why Morris had to come down. And Morris, who's a lot smaller than Dwight and Jokic, is there. And now you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4 on 1, 2, 3. Create a 4-3 situation. So again, really simple stuff. Nothing that complicated. There's obviously going to be individual plays, isolation plays, post up moves, fast breaks. There's a lot that goes into it, but this is just a quick look at some of the easy stuff the Lakers got. Miami's going to have a bit of a different roster, different dynamics, different strengths, different weaknesses. One thing that's going to be interesting to keep track of that, when we break down the Heat, we'll look at a bit is the zone, and how LA is going to try to handle that. We'll look at how Boston did it and didn't do it. That being said, excited for finals game 1 tomorrow, and give us a like, give us a thumbs up, follow, subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. And again, we're going to have all our links in the description below, so give those a look as well. Thank you, guys.